My beloved, there is a time to speak and a time to be still. There is a time to pour out words like rivers, and there is a time to guard them as treasures. Too many lives have been broken by a sentence too quickly spoken, too many hearts pierced by a tongue not tamed. God whispers to the restless soul, "Be still. Keep your mouth shut, let me be the voice." For silence is not a prison, it is a sanctuary. In silence, wisdom is born. In silence, battles are won without lifting a hand. In silence, your spirit can finally hear the eternal. The tongue is small, yet it sets fire to forests. It can crown or it can crucify. So God says, keep it still, not because he fears your voice, but because he honors your destiny. Every word you release is a seed, and once it touches the ground, you cannot gather it back. So hush your lips, child of light. Not every insult requires an answer. Not every argument requires your truth. Sometimes the holiest response is no response at all. For the Almighty fights for you in the silence, and his words thunder far louder than your own. When the time comes, God will loose your tongue to speak life, to proclaim victory, to lift up nations with your voice. But until then, wear silence like a crown, guard your mouth like a gate, and remember to keep your mouth shut when God says so is not defeat, it is divine obedience. Silence is not weakness, it is strength clothed in wisdom. Too often, people confuse silence with surrender, with the bowing of the head in defeat, with the absence of courage. But silence, when born from discernment, is not an absence at all. It is a presence more commanding than words could ever be. It is the mark of one who has mastered not only the tongue, but also the spirit behind it. There are moments in life when speaking feels urgent, when defending yourself seems necessary, when proving a point burns in your bones. Yet silence, chosen deliberately, carries more weight than any string of arguments. The one who holds their tongue is not empty. They are full of patience, full of understanding, full of the quiet knowledge that not every battle is worth fighting and not every word is worth releasing. The power of silence is that it cannot be misquoted, it cannot be twisted or weaponized. Words once released may travel further than you ever intended, sometimes building bridges, but other times leaving behind a trail of ruin. Silence, however, is a guard at the gate of your soul. It protects you from the regret of words spoken in haste. It shields your dignity when anger tempts you to tear another down. It allows you the sacred pause to hear not only the voice of others, but the whisper of God within you. There is a wisdom in silence that many overlook. It is not the silence of fear or oppression, but the silence of restraint and clarity. It is the silence of a warrior who knows when to strike and when to stand still. It is the silence of a mother who knows the difference between correction and condemnation. It is the silence of a leader who knows that true authority is not in loudness, but in presence. Such silence is not passive, it is active, alive, and deliberate. Silence teaches us to listen, and listening is an art forgotten in a world intoxicated with its own noise. In silence, we hear the cries that words often drown out. In silence, we recognize the truth behind the mask of conversation. In silence, we learn to sit with discomfort, to face our own thoughts, to sift through the motives of our heart. That kind of listening is where wisdom grows. The power of silence also lies in its ability to transform conflict. An argument demands fuel to burn. If you withhold your words, you starve the fire. What was meant to consume you loses its power. Your silence becomes a shield, a quiet declaration that you will not be dragged into battles unworthy of your energy. You rise above not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to save your strength for the things that truly matter. So do not despise silence. Do not mistake it for cowardice. It is a discipline, a choice, a garment woven with wisdom and patience. When you wear silence, you carry a power that no volume of words can compete with. You hold yourself steady in a world that trembles with noise, and in that steadiness, you discover that silence is not the absence of power, it is its purest form. The tongue is a small member of the body, yet it carries the force to shape worlds. With it, we can build bridges of love, hope, and healing, and with the same tongue, we can tear down trust, peace, and dignity in a single moment. Words, once spoken, take on a life of their own. They travel from ear to heart, from heart to memory, and they either strengthen the soul or scar it forever. That is why it is said that the tongue can build or destroy. Every person has felt the weight of words. A kind word, spoken in season, has the power to lift a weary soul from despair. It can become the very breath that revives someone who had almost given up. A simple, "I believe in you," can water the seed of greatness lying dormant in another. The gentle assurance of, "You are not alone," can pull someone back from the edge of hopelessness. Words have the power to breathe life into dry bones, to stir courage into the faint-hearted, and to heal wounds unseen by human eyes. This is the building power of the tongue, and it is sacred. But on the other side, words can wound in ways no blade can match. Harsh speech has broken more hearts than wars have claimed bodies. A careless insult can echo in the mind of a child for decades. A bitter criticism, thrown in anger, can extinguish the flame of someone's purpose. Words, when used recklessly, can kill dreams, shatter confidence, and sow division where unity once stood. Many families, friendships, and even nations have been torn apart by tongues that chose destruction instead of healing. The danger lies in the speed with which words can leave us. They rush out before the mind has measured their weight, before the spirit has considered their cost, and once they are released, no apology can fully erase them. You may mend the wound, but the scar remains. This is why silence, chosen at the right moment, becomes a powerful safeguard. By holding back your words, you prevent harm before it is ever done. By pausing, you create space to choose wisely whether to build or destroy. It is not that silence should always replace speech, but that speech should be tempered with care. To build with the tongue requires discipline, patience, and compassion. It requires you to think, will these words heal or hurt? Will they uplift or oppress? Will they sow peace or stir conflict? The wise understand that every sentence is a seed, and the harvest will surely come. If you plant words of love, you reap trust. If you plant words of anger, you reap bitterness. The choice is always yours. So guard your tongue as you would guard your treasure. Let your words be few, but let them be fruitful. Speak when your voice will build, and hold your peace when your silence will prevent destruction. For in the end, the world will not only remember what you have done, but what you have said, and the legacy of your words will outlive the breath that carried them. Listening is greater than speaking, for when you hold your tongue, you open your spirit to receive what words alone cannot give. Too often we rush to respond, to defend, to prove that our thoughts matter more than the silence of another. Yet the true power in communication is not found in how loudly or how quickly we speak, but in how deeply we listen. To listen is to honor, to humble yourself, and to give space for truth to be revealed. When you withhold your tongue, you allow room for understanding. Words can only reveal what the mouth wishes to say, but silence uncovers what the heart truly carries. People long not only to be heard, but to be understood, and this understanding is born not through speeches, but through listening. In the act of listening, you are saying without words, your voice matters, your story matters, your presence is worthy of my attention. Such a gift cannot be measured, for it breathes dignity into another's soul. Listening is more than hearing sounds, it is the posture of the spirit. To listen is to put aside your own judgment, to quiet the noise of your own thoughts, and to tune into the meaning behind the words. It is discerning what is spoken, and also what is left unsaid. The cries of pain, the echoes of fear, the whispers of hope often hide behind simple words, and only the patient listener will hear them. This is why listening carries a wisdom that speaking alone cannot provide. There is also a divine depth to listening. When you stop speaking, you position yourself to hear the voice of God. His voice does not compete with noise, it dwells in stillness. Too often, prayers are filled with requests and declarations, but little room is left for his reply. Silence is the soil where revelation grows, and listening is the water that nourishes it. By quieting your tongue, you allow your spirit to open to guidance greater than your own understanding. Listening transforms relationships in a way that speaking never will. A friend who listens is more cherished than one who always advises. A parent who listens builds trust that discipline alone cannot achieve. A leader who listens earns loyalty beyond the command of authority. Listening communicates love in its purest form, for it requires patience, humility, and presence. When you listen, you are not seeking to control the moment, you are surrendering to it. Speaking may display knowledge, but listening reveals wisdom. Anyone can speak, but not everyone can listen. Speaking puts forth your voice, but listening receives the voices of many. When you choose listening over speaking, you show strength of character, for it takes more discipline to remain silent than to speak. In listening, you gather truths that words could never teach, and you honor the sacredness of every soul you encounter. So hold your tongue, not as a denial of your worth, but as an offering of respect. Open your spirit, and let the voices of others and the voice of God shape your understanding, for in the end the one who listens learns, and the one who learns grows, while the one who only speaks may remain surrounded by noise but starved of wisdom. Sometimes God calls us to stillness so his voice can be louder than ours. Restraint is not a natural impulse for the human heart. We are quick to speak, quick to defend, quick to prove that we are right, and that our way should be heard. Yet God, in his wisdom, often asks us to hold back, to resist the urge to act, to remain silent when the world demands a response. This restraint is not punishment, it is protection. It is the way he clears space for his voice to guide where our words would only bring confusion. When you choose restraint, you are declaring your trust in God's timing. You are admitting that your perspective is limited, that your vision cannot see the full horizon. In the stillness, you step aside so that his wisdom can step forward. Too many people lose blessings because they rush to speak or move before God has finished preparing the way. Restraint is a sacred pause, a moment where you say, "Not my will, but yours be done." God's wisdom in restraint can be seen throughout life. Think of the times you wanted to answer an insult with sharper words, but something within told you to be still. Later, you realized silence protected you from regret and revealed the character of the one who attacked you. Think of the times you wanted to force a door open, but God whispered, "Wait." And when the right door opened, it led you to a place far greater than you had planned for yourself. This is the fruit of restraint. It saves you from traps you cannot see. Stillness is not inactivity, it is intentional trust. It takes greater strength to hold your tongue than to unleash it, greater courage to wait than to push, greater faith to listen than to shout. When God calls you to stillness, he is not silencing your worth but magnifying his plan. His voice is often soft, not because it is weak, but because he desires intimacy. If you are always filling the air with your own words, you will never hear the gentle whisper of his spirit. Restraint is also a weapon. The enemy expects you to react, to lash out, to let anger and pride lead your response. But when you remain still, when you hold back your tongue, you rob him of his power. Your silence becomes a shield, and your restraint becomes a declaration that God fights your battles. Victory is not always loud. Sometimes it is found in the quiet endurance of faith. So the next time you feel pressed to speak too soon or act too quickly, remember this truth: sometimes God's wisdom is not in what you do, but in what you don't do. He calls you to stillness so his voice can rise above yours, so his wisdom can go before you, so his power can be revealed in ways your words could never achieve. Trust the beauty of restraint, for in the pause, you will find his presence, and in his presence you will find peace. Silence can be a shield, a covering that guards your spirit from wounds that words might otherwise invite. To keep quiet does not mean you are powerless or without a voice. It means you have chosen wisdom over impulse, peace over conflict, and dignity over regret. Many battles have been lost because someone could not resist the urge to speak. Many relationships have been broken because the tongue was quicker than the heart. Silence, when chosen with purpose, is not weakness. It is protection. There are moments in life when silence becomes your armor. When anger rises and emotions swirl, words spoken in haste can pierce deeper than knives. In that moment, the temptation is strong to defend yourself, to prove your point, to lash out so the other feels the sting you feel. But if you hold back, if you let silence cover you, you discover that time itself becomes your ally. What was urgent in the heat of the moment fades when given room to breathe. The regret of harsh words never spoken is far lighter than the burden of trying to take them back. Silence also protects you from judgment. In a world where every opinion is scrutinized, twisted, and repeated, your silence cannot be misinterpreted. What you do not say cannot be used against you. What you do not reveal cannot be manipulated. Silence guards your reputation more fiercely than endless explanations ever could. When you are quiet, you keep control over your story, refusing to hand it over to gossip, misunderstanding, or the malice of others. Conflict thrives on fuel and silence starves it. Arguments require words to survive. If you refuse to add your voice to the fire, the flames eventually die down. Silence disarms the one who comes to provoke you, for there is no satisfaction in fighting a battle where no blows are returned. It is not about running away. It is about standing in such strength that you do not need to prove yourself through noise. Your silence becomes louder than their accusations. Yet silence is not merely avoidance. It is strategy. It gives you the space to think, to pray, to discern what is worth your energy and what is not. It teaches you that not every invitation to conflict is worthy of your presence, and not every attack requires your defense. In silence, you protect not only your peace, but also your destiny, for the wrong words spoken in the wrong season can delay what God has prepared for you. But silence keeps you aligned with His plan, so cherish the protection that silence brings. Wear it like a cloak when anger tempts you, when conflict seeks you, when judgment surrounds you. In your quietness you will find strength, in your restraint you will find freedom, and in your silence you will discover that sometimes the greatest victories are not won with words, but with the refusal to utter them at all. Silence is not forever. It is the discipline of waiting for God's appointed moment. To hold your tongue does not mean you will never speak, and to remain still does not mean your voice will never matter. Silence is a season, a holy preparation, a time when God molds your spirit, sharpens your discernment, and teaches you the rhythm of His will. Then, when the moment is ripe, He loosens your tongue, and what you speak carries the weight of heaven. There is great danger in speaking too soon. Words released before their time can fall flat, misunderstood, or even harmful. Like fruit picked before it is ripe, they may be bitter, unready to nourish those who hear them. But when you wait for God's appointed moment, your words arrive like rain on dry ground, refreshing, purposeful, and undeniable. A delayed word in God's timing is more powerful than 1,000 speeches rushed in your own. Speaking at the right time requires humility, for it means acknowledging that your wisdom is not enough. It means admitting that your emotions cannot be trusted to lead the way. You may feel the urge to defend yourself, to prove your worth, to push your truth into the ears of others. But discipline tells you to pause, to measure, to ask, is this the time? Is this God's moment, or is it mine? The wise understand that timing is everything. When you wait on God, He gives your words authority. They are no longer just sounds from your mouth. They become instruments of His will. A word spoken in anger may destroy, but a word spoken at the right time can reconcile enemies. A word spoken in pride may wound, but a word spoken at the right time can heal a nation. This is the mystery of divine timing. It transforms ordinary speech into extraordinary impact. Even Jesus Himself knew the power of waiting for the right time. There were moments when He was silent before accusers, refusing to speak until the appointed hour. And when He did speak, His words cut through pretense and revealed truth with clarity. He was never hurried by the expectations of people, for He lived by the timing of heaven. That same discipline is what God calls us to embrace. Speaking at the right time also protects your destiny. Not everyone is meant to hear everything you carry. Some words are seeds that must stay hidden in the soil until the season is right. To reveal them too soon is to expose them to storms that will destroy their growth. But if you wait, if you guard your voice until the Spirit says now, your words will not only be heard, they will be received. So trust the silence, but do not fear it. It is only the waiting room for your voice. When the right moment comes, your silence will give birth to words that shake foundations, lift burdens, and change lives. Speaking at the right time is not about saying much. It is about saying the one thing in the one moment that God Himself has appointed. My friends, we have walked together through the power of silence, the weight of words, the gift of listening, the wisdom of restraint, the shield of quietness, and the discipline of speaking in God's perfect time. Each lesson reminds us that the mouth is not merely for sound, it is for purpose. Silence is not weakness, but wisdom. Words are not casual, but eternal. And timing is not ours, but God's. When you keep your mouth shut at His command, you are not silenced, you are strengthened. You are not empty, you are filled with His voice. You are not losing, you are preserving the victory He has already prepared for you. So let us leave here with a deeper reverence for silence, a greater caution for words, and an unshakable trust in God's timing. For when we surrender our voice to Him, He will return it to us with power, with authority, and with life. Thank you for lending your ears, your hearts, and your spirit. May you walk in wisdom, clothed in silence when needed, and crowned with words when appointed. And may the grace of God guide your every moment until the time comes to speak again. Thank you.